Hi everybody. So here with me I have the tarot of the Emperor or of the King Nissanka. That is pronounced Roy instead of Roy. And of course I've been pronouncing it Roy because, you know, I don't speak French. So Tarot du Roy Nissanka. I think I couldn't find a pronunciation when I Google Nissanka, but if somebody know any other way to pronounce the name of the emperor or the king in what is now Sri Lanka, excuse me, who ruled between, I can't remember which year, but it's 11 something, so it's the 12th century. So this is Tarot of the King Nissanka or Tarot of the Emperor Nissanka by Grimaud, and let me see, it's made in France, and I believe they are still in print, but I could be wrong. I know that they are harder to find in the English speaking market, and so Joanne was kind enough to help me get this. And when I asked her how much it is, she said don't worry about it. So if I can ever return the pleasure, Joanne, and I actually am thinking of sending you some of my crystals, rocks and minerals, and I have decided that crystals really don't work for me, metaphysically speaking, and in terms of a psychopoetic tool and a largely symbolic tool. My criteria for them is slightly different from, you know, the beginning, when I was hoping that perhaps I might be able to obtain some sort of metaphysical revelation, because although I wasn't too convinced of it, I was keeping an open mind, and I was hoping to be proven wrong, at least for myself. But we are not here to talk about crystals. We're talking about Tarot du Roy Nissanka by Maria Hestre. So that's probably the signature of the artist. Again by Grimaud, a publishing house in France, and this is said to be made in France. Reference Grimaud Cartomancy 394133, and that is the barcode there. And that's made in France, it says. So there is no flip through of this deck other than Joanne's own flip through. Other than that video of hers, I see no one flipping through this deck. So the booklet is completely in French, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to show you much other than what I've already done there. So we'll put this here for now, and let's rip through the card. Let me make sure that we are focused. And so this is the size of the card. What's the size of the card? Let's have a look. So 12 centimeters, or about just under 5 inches by, so it's a narrow one. It's by about 65 millimeters, or 6 centimeters and a half, or 2.5 inches. So that's the size of the cards. The cardstock is nice. It's waxy smooth but not shiny. So it's smooth enough against each other. Just trying to focus. Yeah, so that's pretty liquid, so that it'll fan beautifully and it'll shuffle overhand beautifully against each other. So that's Le Mat, the Fool. The Fool. That's the back. I don't know much about Sri Lankan culture or the Sri Lankan lore or history. I only know that Nissanka ruled in the 12th century, in the 1100s, and that he was invited over to the kingdom by one king who was then overtaken by another, and then that other king, Nissanka basically killed that other king, and then he took over. So this is the magician. So as you can see, excuse me the background, I'm going to increase the music. So this very much reminds me of a lot of pretty much Rider-Waite-Smith, or not Rider-Waite-Smith, but in this case I believe the formatting is not so much Rider-Waite-Smith, but potentially Marseilles. Let's have a look. So that's the Empress, yeah. So I was going to say that with the Rider-Waite-Smith quote-unquote clones, you have the Nusantara Tarot, you have the Thai Tarot, with basically the basic format is, you can see this, the basic format here is, you know, with the Emperor looking that way instead of frontal like Rider-Waite-Smith. This is definitely Tarot de Marseille based, and then the aesthetic or the cosmetic or the theme is the Sri Lankan, ancient Sri Lankan kingdom of the 12th century during the time of Nissanka. I see this as a mother and wife rather than two women, interestingly. Or you can argue this one is very pious, a bit more covered up. This one is very earthy, very religious perhaps, and this one's earthy. Okay, the background music's a little loud, but oh my goodness. Okay, never mind. We'll just have to push through. So this is the Chariot with two buffaloes. I like that. This is Justice. So Justice has a very Western iconography with what do you call this? Scale and sword, but with an aesthetic that is South Asian. I like that the lantern's like that, because it's not so much a lantern, it's a candle. Interesting that it has a snake there. I wonder if there's any part of the story that is particularly particular to Nissanka. And do you call them Ceylon in those days? I think Sri Lanka is Ceylon, right? Like Ceylon tea is basically Sri Lankan tea, isn't it? Is this strength? So strength is 8, no 11. Justice is 8, which is, you know, consistent with the Marseille system. I found this death to be a bit comical because he looked a bit stunned. Obviously he still retained his eyeballs and a bit of lips from the look of it. So that's quite humorous. I do apologize for the noises in the background. So we have the this kind of devil, and again this particular devil is very Western, I believe. I could be wrong, From what I know, the chicken feet and the both male and female, this you don't really see the male genitalia there, but in the head of a goat, and this all the bat wings and everything. I believe this is European in origin, but I could be wrong. I mean, the whole Marseille, the idea of a Marseille, sort of Tower de Marseille, is Western anyway. So this is the star. I usually see the star as pouring water to both, you know, to both a body of water and to land. Here both is poured into water, so I don't know how that's going to affect your reading or how it's going to affect your use of that card or that story or that archetype. It's the moon. It's profile, so very much like is it type 2? I can't quite recall. The 2. Someone said it's alluding to Gemini, that's why the two boys. Judgment. Or so I would call it resurrection and awakening. The world. So the human here is a lady, so that's quite nice. And all the other beasts are the same. Eagle, I think. Buffalo and the lion. So now this is a pip deck, so you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to flip through this really quickly. And the composition like that, like that, like that. So definitely Marseille, and I quite like that. 1, 2, that. Because when the composition changed, for me, it changes how I make use of the pips in the minors. So that kind of sword. So if you're wondering why the swords in the Marseille is curved. And this threw me off a little bit, because 5 usually 2, 2, and with 1. That 1, that single number disrupting the even number is important to me, and so this way it doesn't look disruptive at all. So that kind of threw me off a little bit. See, there it is, that middle there is 8, 9, 10. Again, the 4, instead of forming a very stable square, this is like this. So that threw me off a little bit, which is why for the moment I'm just going to use the majors. 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2 with the thing here, but it doesn't have any name or year. 3, 4. Now this is a 4, right? Like that. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we have the courts. The valet, the valet, the valet, and the valet. Queen. King. He looked the most mature here, which is interesting. I absolutely adore the aesthetic. I adore the aesthetic. And I like that it's quote-unquote Eastern theme, because I do miss a theme that is something other than Western, which is to be expected. As I said, I understand tarot as we know it is from the Western tradition. So this is the Knights of Baton, of Swords there, of Cups, and of Coins. Here we have Grimaud, the variety of product that they have. Their address. That's a blank card that you can use. I won't use it. Spare card. So that's the Tarot du Roy Nissanka by Grimaud. Bye.